Hello and welcome everyone to day 68 in this quest for a 2000 rating on chess.com. So let's begin here. We have the black pieces. Our opponent has just played e4. So we'll continue with e5 and see what they do next. Alright, knight to f3, attacking our pawn. So we'll defend. And alright, so now we have the Ruy Lopez opening. We'll attack that bishop. See what they do. Normally they'll retreat back here to a4. Now there is the option of capturing, but I don't see that very often. Alright, so now let's see. We probably want to play knight to f6 here. So we'll go ahead and do that, attacking this pawn. And now what do we have? We want to follow that up with probably bishop to e7. And then, at some point, play b5, driving this bishop back. But we want to try and play bishop to e7. Here, so we can go ahead and get ready to castle. So we'll go ahead and play that. Now we're ready to castle. So here they could play c3. All right, so rook to e1. So now let's see, we probably should drive the bishop back. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then, let's see, do we go ahead and castle here? Or do we just go ahead and attack his bishop? Well, we probably want to continue development here. So let's see. We'll go ahead and just castle. Get our king to safety. Alright, so we have this move, c3. So we will go ahead and fortify in the center here. With this move, and this lets us bring our bishop out, which we could possibly pin the knight to the queen, so they stop that possibility. All right, so now we can go ahead and attack the bishop. So we'll go ahead and do that. Then we can drive our pawn forward and then reposition our knight back. All right, so now this will help us fight for the center. And we can bring our knight back into c6 and also our queen up here to c7 in case, he pushes forward here and we open up this c file. All right, so there we go. I'm going to play the queen here to c7 and just see what they decide to do next here. Now, they could push forward, gaining space in the center, or they could capture either pawn, and I would recapture, so then I'd end up with a pawn on e5 and c5. All right, so now what should they do here? Probably an option could be to, let's see, do they want to bring their knight? A common sequence of moves in the Ruy Lopez is to bring this knight to d2, then to f1, and then from there you can either put it up here on g3 or back towards the center on e3. So, okay, and so they start with that maneuver. Bringing the knight in, the knight will probably go to f1, and then either to g3 or e3. So, what do we want to do here? Let's see. If we bring our knight towards the center, the pawn could push forward attacking our knight. And then, what do we do with the knight then? Let's see. And maybe we should centralize our rook as well. We could also maybe get ready to move this rook back and fianchetto it here. All right, so we'll just go ahead and play that move. See what they decide to do next. Now, may have to watch out. Now this bishop could be activated by moving here. So, what should we do then? And, where do we want to put this bishop? If we go here and he pushes forward, then our knight is kind of trapped out there. Is it an option to move here, attacking this pawn? Let's see. Probably need to centralize this knight back. All right. Well, and if I try and go with g6 to fianchetto, he could possibly go there. And then what do I do? All right. Well, should I develop my bishop here? Here would probably be better. That way, in case I need to retreat my knight back. And also, this will help keep an eye on this in case he pushes this pawn here. So, let's go ahead and do that. All right. So, okay, and so the knight continues development up here, where it could possibly jump in here. So, we may need to go here to keep this knight out, like just develop here. So we'll go ahead and do that. And see what we should play next. That at least keeps the knight out, but this bishop could develop here, I guess, or here to prevent me. If that happens, I guess I could. I don't know. It's starting to look a little bit tricky, and we have to be careful here. If they capture and I recapture, that might work. I don't know. I probably need to jump this knight forward, maybe. Well, I don't know. I should keep the knight here in case this bishop tries to come back out. You know, white could possibly push this pawn to a4, trying to open up this a file for the rook. Then, you know, I guess I could capture. He would get rid of my good bishop, although, well, he has pawns on both colors in the center, so we don't know yet. If he pushes forward, then this will be a bad bishop, and it would be a good exchange for him if he pushes this a pawn and we trade off bishops. All right, well, depending on what he does with this bishop, I need to figure out, you know, what I'm going to do with this knight. All right, well, at least my opponent is taking a while to think here, trying to figure out what, you know, how to continue. I don't know. Probably he should just develop this bishop. You know, and where should he put the bishop? Well, maybe bishop to g5, attacking my knight. And then, ooh, where does my knight go? Where does my knight... Okay, so now he wants to push forward here. Okay, so I imagine he moved this out. That way, well, one, he could try and maybe activate his queen, I guess. But he probably wants to push his f pawn here. All right, well, do I go ahead and break open the center here? You know, is that what we're thinking? I don't know. I probably need to reposition this bishop, follow through with my plan of repositioning the bishop here. So I don't know. We'll just go ahead and do that before I burn up too much time. You know, if he pushes forward, what do I do? Maybe, could have some problems with this knight not having anywhere to go. That could be an issue. All right, so there we go. An attack on the pawn. Can I afford to ignore that? You know, by just developing. attack there? This knight is really running out of options on where to go. So I probably need to do something about that. All right, if he captures, I go there, he captures. All right, well, should I develop my bishop back? He's got 1, 2, 2, 3 defenders. I would have 1, 2, 3 attackers if this pawn moves out of the way. That's not going to be enough. All right, I'm kind of uncoordinated, especially that knight. All right, well, we're just going to go there. See what they decide to do next. All right, now I have to figure out something to do with this bishop or this knight here, because look, this knight can hardly go anywhere. I don't know, it's not looking too good for that knight. At least the knight is preventing his knight here from jumping forward and attacking mine. All right. Well, we should probably attack this way. So we go ahead and do that. And now what? Now what? All right, well, okay, so he decides to play that. All right, well, now maybe we should just centralize and line up on his queen. I'm thinking that's probably a good move. All right, we'll just go ahead and do that. Just line up on his queen. Line up on his queen. And then, how do we continue after that? These knights could be dangerous. Okay, so he decides to go there. All right. Well, probably need to move this. I can't do that because we're going to have issues here. All right, well, all right. This bishop probably needs to stay here. Is there a way to activate this knight? All right. Do I jump this knight forward? Man, this knight is kind of out of play here. Is there a way that I could back this knight up? Well, probably should just go forward there. Put pressure on that pawn so I could capture if his I don't know. It's looking kind of rough here. Maybe it would have been a better move to bring this bishop up here and line it up on the queen, but I don't know. He's got this. He could just ignore this pawn, let me grab it, and move up here, pinning my knight to the rook. All right, well, okay, so he just decides to attack. Now, where is best to go with this knight? All right, where can we go? Where can we go? I guess we're probably gonna back up to here. Now he can bring his bishop out. He'll probably pin this knight, which is, not particularly good for me. Let's see. Okay, so he just lines up on that. All right, should I push forward here? With something like this, or all right, let's go ahead and do that. Give us some space. We're threatening to capture there. And then we could try and pick this pawn off. All right, so he just closes that up. All right, so now, do we move this? Do we line up on the queen there? Or do we just back the bishop up? That might be a better move. Back that bishop up. All right, so We'll go ahead and do that. Open up a line for our rooks. Now the question is, how do we proceed here? So we're both getting lower on time, approaching the 5-minute mark. My opponent still has, a decent amount more time than I do. Okay, so he just moved. He retreated back. I assume he wants to put his queen here and try and go after my knight, maybe. Do I go after his bishop there? Is that a possibility even? Just go after his bishop, and then where does his bishop go? His bishop would have to retreat. Well, that's a possibility. All right, I don't have a lot of time to think about it, so I'm just going to go after his bishop, which is unprotected. He could just move his rook up there, but then I guess I could double my rooks. All right, well, at least that's a threat on his bishop there. I don't know, this game turned rather complicated and messy. Okay, so I might as well double up my rooks now. So we'll go ahead and do that. I don't know, maybe that'll give us, some little advantage there. And I don't know, I'm just waiting for him to capture my pawn, but then I could recapture. Let's see. I don't know. We're not really doing too much. Is there a way we can lure one of his pieces away? If this knight moves, he could just push forward here, trapping my bishop somewhat. All right, so there we go. Now what? Do we just pick that knight off? Probably. I think we're kind of forced to do that. All right, so we take that knight. What does he do? Capture with the queen or double his pawns up, pulling this pawn towards the center. Okay, he goes with the queen. So that is interesting. What can we do? Is there a way to take advantage of that? Can I put my queen somewhere to get advantage? Probably need to reposition this knight. Reposition this knight. Man. Well, let's go up that way. Go after this pawn. All right, well, he's down under 5 minutes now. I'm under 4 minutes. Need to speed it up. Here, he could break my pawns apart, which is a possibility. If he captures my knight, my pawns are wrecked. But maybe I'll have an attack. Is there anything I could do here? Capturing this, rook captures the bishop, pulling his king out. Then I don't see a follow-up there. If my queen goes there, it's not really much or anything I can do after that. All right, so he does break the pawns apart. Okay, we have to capture. All right, so we have an attack. The question is, do I go after this unprotected pawn? All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go after that. I don't have much time to think. So, we'll just go ahead and do it. All right, so we have an attack. Well, we probably should bring this up here. Then we can team up on this pawn right here. So I think we'll try that next. So we could move here, go after this pawn. At least this bishop is, well, he could just, all right, so here we go. Now, what do we have going on? All right, let's go there. Just start piling up on this pawn. So now we're down both to about equal time here. Well, this could be dangerous if this pawn pushes forward here. All right. That may have helped me. But which way do I capture? Towards the center, that's usually what you want to do. Or do we go this way? Well, maybe better to keep my pawns together. So, I'm going to go that way. Then I could always bring this bishop up here to protect this pawn. And I need to go after, I got to watch out because the possibility of an attack here on my king. That could be dangerous. All right, I need to try and pick off this pawn. He could capture. If I go here, his other rook tries to take control. I go back here. If he captures, it pulls this pawn up. But I need to try and get this passed pawn moving as well. Okay, so he decides to just go that way. All right, well, now I should probably, let's see. Is there a way to get in there after that? Okay, we only got 2 minutes left. We have to hurry. Well, what can I do? What can I do? I don't know. This is looking crazy. All right, I guess I'm going. Can I do that or not? Now I'm just running out of time. Need to put more pressure on that. All right, running out of time. Actually, maybe I need to do another move here. Something like, all right, anyway, we're going that way. And then we'll try and bring our queen over here to the center. I don't know if this move was good enough, bringing this bishop here. I do have a possible check. Would that do anything? Check, he could just block with his queen. All right, well, might as well do that. Then protect the pawn, and we could threaten to get rid of his, we could fork here. Then if he captures, our queen checks. And then, well, his king could come down and protect the knight that we would be attacking. But then we could start marching this passed pawn up. So, he may retreat his queen back. That's a possibility as well. Okay, well, that's interesting. All right, let's just go ahead and Go after him. Then just start marching this passed pawn up. All right, so we march up the passed pawn. What can he do? What can he do? All right, he's starting to really run out of time here. We just need to march this passed pawn up. All right, I guess he's just going to run out of time. Maybe he thought there's no way to stop that passed pawn. All right, well, we got a win there. Trying to work my way back up to 1600 since I had a little meltdown a while back. All right, so let's do a game review there and see what was going on in that crazy Ruy Lopez. All right, so we played at 86.5 versus their 78.8. I had one great move. Okay, inaccuracies. So they had 9 and I had 5. They had 3 mistakes, I had 1, and we both had 1 miss. And this says, nice eye, you found a tactic to grow your lead into a win. So let's take a look here. Looks like the game was pretty even in White's favor, and then I must have missed something here where I had a slight advantage and then gave it back. And then White built up a lead, almost +2 before they let it slip. And then, later in the game, we just slowly pulled away. So let's see here. All right, so the Ruy Lopez, we started out with a lot of book moves here. Man, we made 13 book moves before we went out of book. So that's one thing about the Ruy Lopez that's pretty complicated. It's been played for so long and by so many masters that the book moves can go really deep, into 20 some moves or more, maybe 30 or higher. There's some crazy theory on the Ruy Lopez. That's one reason I kind of switched over to the Italian game. I used to play the Ruy Lopez with White. All right, continuing on here. We just reposition. Yeah, here I think I kind of got myself, I don't know, a little bit clustered up. It didn't like this move. Let's see, what does it say was best? To just go ahead and attack there. I kind of debated that. Attack, trading off in the center at some point. So, it looks like that's what I should have done. I would have maintained an edge. This says I even win a pawn. So, what would they do here? Just recapture. And then, how am I winning a pawn here? I have 1, 2 attackers. They have 3 defenders there. Anyway, something to look at in the analysis. I'll dig deeper into that. Let's just zip through this game review. Man, it is really blasting through those moves. Okay, so here we picked off this pawn. Now black is ahead. This move it did not like. So what should I have done here? Black is still ahead, but better move would have been, checking here. Oh man. Did I miss something crazy? Because now I'm attacking the king. He would have to move, and then I'm threatening to... This is pretty crazy. Threatening a mate here. if I jump up here, but the king would be in check and have time to move, and then the rook could possibly swing over to protect this pawn once my queen moves up to here. So another thing to look at in the analysis there at the end. All right, so this is a way to win a knight. So we have that move. Let's keep going. So the king comes down and protects. And then, I guess once I push this pawn, it says that's an excellent move, but maybe it wasn't the best there. Okay, so we'll have to dig into the analysis. So there's some interesting things to look at. It says you really outplayed your opponent in that one. Both of you played an amazing opening. You were a cut above your opponent in the middle game. So they played at a 1650 level. I played at 1900. And then they had 100% opening accuracy versus my 100%. So crazy. We played all the way through the opening correctly. But they played a 65.9% middle game versus my 79.3 there. All right. Well, let's see. Take a look at the analysis and figure out what we missed here. All right, so e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5, the Ruy Lopez. So you put pressure on the knight, which is defending the pawn, which is under attack by the other knight. So my opponent, after I attack his bishop, he retreats. Another option would be giving up your bishop for the knight here, and then you would probably capture towards, or excuse me, away from the center. But if they tried to pick off this knight, you could just move your queen out, attacking their knight and pawn at the same time and regain your pawn back. So most people don't do that. They want to keep this strong light squared bishop, which often comes in handy in the Ruy Lopez. So they retreat back. Now computer recommends knight to f6 is the best move, which is what we played. Now it likes castling for white. So they castle, and now let's see, bishop to e7 or an immediate b5 attacking the bishop here. So we play bishop to e7, and now it's actually recommending that you capture the knight here. So I don't know, that's a pretty interesting option. But instead they play rook to e1, which protects this pawn, even though if the knight captured, you could attack maybe and drive that knight away and then go after this pawn. So we play b5. Is that what it recommends? Yes, it looks like b5. The computer likes that move. So the bishop retreats, of course. And now it looks like castling immediately is a good option. Second best is d6. So I go ahead and castle. They play either c3 or d4 are both good moves here, but c3 is played. We go ahead and play d6, which fortifies our pawn in the center, although the computer also likes d5 here. All right, so we play this, and now they make this move, which avoids a bishop developing with a pin on this knight, which could be a little bit troublesome. They would probably play this, and then what do? Do you back up and entice him to push forward even further, maybe creating a little bit of weakness on the king side? But we continue with this move. So one, it attacks the bishop, but really we're moving out of the way of this pawn so it can push forward and help control the d4 square. Because white played c3 with the idea behind this move is to push the d pawn up here and be backed up by this c pawn. So we want to go ahead and play c5. So they want to keep their bishop and they retreat, giving us time to move forward and try and clamp down on this d4 square. So now they play d4 anyway. And then here the computer likes queen to c7, which is what we played. And now it looks like knight at b to d2 is recommended. And that's what they play. And now here, looks like the best move is to capture, well, it looks like there's, I don't know, the computer's undecided. You have the c pawn capturing, bishop to e6 here. You know, although if you played that, they could play d5 and just chase your bishop back, but at least it would close down things on the center and you wouldn't have to constantly be watching and worrying whether or not there was going to be an exchange and an opening up of the center. Bishop to d7. So what did we play here? Rook to e1. Or e8, I mean. Rook to e8, which is also a book move. So this helps keep an eye on our bishop and possibly this e pawn. So now the computer likes b3 here the best, which, what does that do? b3, I guess it prevents the knight from jumping here in the future. It might fortify a push of the c pawn, but my opponent at this point just continues with this maneuver. Of the common maneuver in the Ruy Lopez is to develop your knight on the b1 square to d2 and then to f1. And from f1, you can either jump to g3 or to e3, depending on what the position calls for. So, which you just kind of learn as you become more experienced with the Ruy Lopez and figure out where to move that knight. All right, so we play bishop to d7, but it looks like capturing with our c pawn, c takes d4 is the #1 move recommended by the computer. Knight to c4, immediately bringing our knight back in, which is what I kind of thought about. And maybe that would be better to bring that knight in. If he pushes forward attacking our knight, well, then what do we do? If the knight is here, where can he go next? He would probably have to retreat all the way back to here. All right, so if we played knight to c4, well, the computer doesn't even recommend chasing that knight. Instead, b3 is recommended. All right, anyway, in the game, I just developed bishop to d7, which is still a book move. And here the computer recommends, once again, b3 or knight to e3 here. So in the game, we have this, knight to g3, and now the computer is saying that that's the best move. And so what does this move do? Well, it looks like it threatens to jump up here, maybe attack your bishop. Although this bishop can just retreat back here. But then you might have to watch out for this possible move, which, I don't know, I expected this bishop to go up here and put pressure on my knight, for many moves in this game, but my opponent never did that. So we'll have to see if that was a good option. So here it also likes this move, h6. kind of preventing that bishop from attacking my knight. Also, maybe preventing this knight from jumping forward in the future. Let's see. C takes d4. So in the game, I just played g6. And computer says that's still an excellent move, but it likes knight to c4 better. Because knight to c4 put pressure on this pawn, so the bishop would have a little tougher time developing. And then I could always just retreat my knight back to here, I guess. Maybe keep an eye on the push of the A pawn and keep an eye on the center a little bit. All right, so the knight retreats back, which, I assume my opponent did that because he wants to push his F pawn and attack in the center. So looks like bishop to g5 is what the computer really wanted there. And I was expecting that move at some point. I was thinking, man, if he does that, now I can't retreat my bishop back here in fianchetto. I would probably have to move my knight, but I can't even move the knight until I move my king, the rook, or the bishop. And I thought, well, maybe I'll move my king here, and then I could move the knight back. But then I would have a fianchettoed pawn structure, and white would have succeeded in trading off my bishop, even though it's a bad bishop. But still, I would have weaknesses around my king that could possibly be exploited. All right, well, let's see here. Let's see. So it looks like my opponent should have played bishop to g5, and then I should have played rook at A to c8. Looks like that would be the best move in the position, which keeps an eye on this pawn, maybe frees up my queen to go over here. Although the queen is also keeping an eye on this pawn. So if we have a capture, the knight would be able to capture here. So, a lot of tricky stuff going on in this Ruy Lopez. All right, back to the game. So they played this knight h2 move, which was an inaccuracy. And what do? We follow it up with an inaccuracy as well. So I played bishop to f8, trying to fianchetto. But it looks like an immediate capture in the center would have been better. So I retreat back, and the computer likes E takes D4 better. So let's take a look at that. E captures here. All right, that opens things up. They should capture towards the center, and then we should go ahead and capture as well. Now we have this backwards pawn. And here it recommends not going after this pawn with the queen. Why is that? Well, I guess you could reposition your knight back to the center and attack the queen. So that might be one reason. You gain a little bit of initiative by chasing that queen away, bringing your knight back to the center. They recommend bishop to g5, causing a problem there. And then once again, rook at A to c8, or just knight to c6, which would protect this pawn. I would probably prefer that move, because now you can try and hang on to this pawn with something like this. And the computer actually prefers rook at A to c8 because that lines up on the bishop. You're threatening to capture. They could just bring a rook over, of course, and then line up on your queen. So, a lot of stuff that a lot of possibilities. All right, back to the game. After they make this knight to h2 inaccuracy, and we follow it up with the bishop to f8 inaccuracy, it just continues. They make a mistake now of f4, following up with their plan, moving the knight out of the way of the f pawn and then attacking in the center. But once again, bishop to g5 would have been better. And then, strangely enough, here it recommends, not fianchettoing. Oh, because the queen could just jump up here, and where does the knight go? So king to g7 is recommended. Man, I don't know. That looks dangerous because king to g7, the queen could run up here and put more pressure on this knight. But the knight would be able to retreat back to g8 now, and that might take care of a lot of problems. All right. Okay, so f4 was played by my opponent, a mistake. And right now it says I should definitely open up the center, but I didn't do that. I play bishop to g7, which is a miss. But the best move would be, once again, capturing in the center. They capture. Now, either capturing the pawn or rook, ignoring, and then rook at a to c8. Maybe this move is best. Yes, it likes that the best because now we're threatening to just take their bishop here. So the best move is to protect the bishop with rook to e2. And now queen to b6, threatening to capture this pawn. Although the computer likes the knight to c6 move better. It says that is even better. So let's go back. Knight here. And then knight back to f3, just adding a lot more pressure in the center. Okay, in the game, they played f4. We played bishop to g7, finally fianchettoing, but that wasn't the best move. So now, let's see, we have capture. So d takes e5. Is that what was played? Yes, and that's the best move. So our best move, of course, is to recapture. And now it looks like f5 is the best move. My opponent finds that. Here we should play b4, which I didn't think about that move. Now it's saying rook at a to b8. Huh. Rook at a to b8. So that's interesting. We played to d8, lining up on the queen. The queen moves to f3. And now we have bishop to c6 as the best move, lining up on the queen. So, obviously I should have made that move. Or bishop to c8. That's the second best move. So instead, I just jump forward. That's an inaccuracy. Once again, it wants this immediate bishop to c8 to help maintain control of the open d file. And here it just recommends queen to f2, maybe to avoid any surprise checks later in the game on the king. All right, so in the game, knight to c4 is played. I wanted to put pressure on this pawn, and discourage the bishop from developing. But he probably could have done that anyway, putting pressure on this knight and threatening to capture the pawn and then pick off my knight. So, that's probably why this is a bad move here, or an inaccurate move. So now, what does my opponent do? They play b3, just chasing the knight away. And now knight to d6 is recommended. Is that what we played? No, we played b6. So looks like it would have been better to go towards the center. And I guess that kind of makes sense. We could target this pawn. He's got 1, 2, 3 defenders. We could start piling up with bishop and queen even. Or we could move possibly our rook and then jump our knight in here to help guard our other knight. All right, so that move is played, knight to b6, but they follow it up with an inaccuracy of bishop to e3 instead. Once again, bishop to g5. A serious move here. What do we do if they played that? It looks like just rook to f8. Rook to f8. Then I don't know. This looks like they could capture here. What if they did that? Oh, we just capture with the f-pawn and the rook protects. Okay. So that's how that would have worked out. That's a good little maneuver there. If they put pressure on that knight, we go here. If they capture, we capture away from the center. But then our rook adds to the protection of the knight. And then I guess if they add another rook to it, we bring our queen up to help protect as well. All right, so what do we got going on here? What do we have going on? So now in the game, we played knight to b6. They played bishop to e3, an inaccuracy. We played c4, which computer says that's excellent, but it liked better the immediate bishop to e6 move, just adding pressure on that pawn. So now they push forward, another inaccuracy. Queen to f2 would have been better, threatening to attack my knight. And I kind of looked at that in the game and thought, well, I could just retreat back. So now I decide to retreat back this way. The computer says that's an excellent move. But even better would be this immediate knight to a4 move. So they retreat back, but queen to f2, piling up on the knight would have been better. So now we jump up here, threatening the unprotected bishop. They just protect. Now it wanted us to immediately jump our knight up there, but we didn't do that. Looks like now their knight jumps in here. So the best thing to do is to capture, and the game is even after this. Or maybe white has a slight edge. They should have captured towards the center instead, which is what I thought they might possibly do to back up this pawn and open the half open h-file. So the queen captures. That's an inaccuracy. They should have played this. And then we should have continued with this knight to a4 move. But after the queen captures, our knight finally jumps up there, and the computer still says that's a good move. All right, it's getting dark. Let me turn the light on. All right, so now we continue with the bishop capturing, which is the second best move. It looks like queen to f3 would have been better. Queen to f3, which covers this pawn here. But instead we have a capture. So I capture, and black is ahead now. by 0.64, it looks like. Rook to e2 is the best move in this position, just moving here, protecting this pawn. But my opponent plays a mistake here, so they should have just played that. Which maybe they didn't, because, well, this wouldn't do much either. I mean, I could move here, check, but that's the third. Well, these moves are all about even, but I could check. They would capture. I would capture with check, and then they could just block with their knight, it looks like. All right, well, in the game, what did we have? We had bishop to h3, just attacking my rook. So that allows me to go ahead even further, capturing a pawn. And now I have this passed pawn on the H file, or on the A file, sorry. Now, knight to H1 is recommended. So what is that move doing? Knight to H1. I guess you could reposition the knight forward, maybe to here, and then here. So in the game, we had bishop to G5 finally being played, but now it's the wrong time. Looks like, man, they say knight to H1 is the best move. And then my best move would be rook to D3. Just putting my rook on this outpost. And then knight repositioning up to here. All right, and then now, oh, okay, so that attacks my rook. And then, oh man. My best move here, I would probably retreat, but it says I should go ahead and capture this. The rook would capture, of course. And then now we have, oh, that is interesting. We have that attacking both rooks. So that was a tricky move. I didn't see that at all. Rook at C to E1. It just recommends retreating back like that. And then the best move, it looks like, is just to go ahead and capture. So capture, rook captures, of course. And then now, looks like the best thing to do is to just go ahead. Oh, actually, queen to B6. You threaten to capture their knight and pin it to the king. So queen to B6. And then rook to F1, protecting. Rook to F1. And then we follow up with A3. We just start pushing our passed pawn. And now, let's see, queen to H4, which lets, it kind of relieves white's rook from the guard duty here. Now the queen is helping to guard. And the king could move away here and then let the knight try and jump in here and go after the king. All right, so here we should play king to G7 to keep the queen out. Ooh. But, I don't know. This looks dangerous. Okay, what if you had this move? Attacking. Oh, okay, right now the queen is guarding this pawn from being able to move forward. But anyway, it's starting to look a little dangerous there. Okay, bishop to G5 is what white played. We followed up with rook to D3. which is best. They played queen to h4, but queen to king to h2 would have been better. Running the king over here to somewhat safety. You still have the possibility of the rooks trying to take control of the 7th rank and threatening a check there. Capture of this pawn. So it looks like that's the best move in the position. And then we should follow it up with, oh man, f6. Huh. We would just go ahead and attack the bishop. The bishop would retreat to e3. And now we push the passed pawn again. h4, they start just pushing towards my king. Man, they could just try and capture. If I capture, the queen comes down, pinning this. But then I guess my queen could jump over and attack his. But, white would be building up an attack that way. All right, so bishop to g5, rook to d3, queen to h4, and then we follow it up with a mistake. Instead, queen to a7. So this is what I should have looked at, or what I mentioned I wanted to look at when we did the game review. All right, queen to a7 check. Best move is king to h2. And now, oh man, it recommends f6 here as the best move. Also queen to f2, but then the rook could come back here and defend. And then what does it recommend after that? So queen to f2, rook to g1, then we would play f6. But it says f6 immediately here is better. Man. Okay, f6. F takes here. What? Well, that's pretty crazy. So it doesn't recommend capturing here. You could capture. It doesn't even show that move. So maybe we'll take a look at that. But here's what it recommends. Going here, and then you either capture back or you just ignore it and play queen up to f2, threatening mate. All right, or we just capture, but it likes this move. So threatening a mate, they play rook to g1, and now you would just go ahead and capture anyway. And then rook to a1. That looks insane. No, well, that's white's move, sorry. Rook to a1. Then rook to c2. Maybe going after this pawn. But they can pick this off, our passed pawn. Rook at a to f1. They recommend going after the queen here. All right, anyway, before I dig way into that line, so we should have played queen to a7, then king to h2, then f6. Now, what if they just did that? Well, then you should capture. If the queen captures, it's showing that black is really winning here with queen to f2. Queen to f2. Oh, that pins this pawn so it can't take, or you capture the queen. And then, oh man, now it recommends giving up your knight with knight to e2. But what if they do that? Block. Well, then you have, oh, you have this move with check. King has to go to h1. Oh, man. And then you can sacrifice the queen, capture, and the rook comes in for the mate. Oh, man. Yeah, that would have been a crazy attack. Okay, well, once again, I guess by this time I'm down to 3 minutes, and I should have been looking harder at attacking possibilities. So, after this move, you have to be looking for checks to see if you can, check and then get some kind of attack going. All right, so here I played rook to a3, which was a mistake. They followed up with a miss. F takes g6 here. The best move would have been an immediate king to h2, avoiding a check and allowing your queen to have time to get up here. And now it still recommends this, threatening to move up here and threaten a mate, or at least an attack here maybe, but you have to do something about your rooks. Now your rook's no longer up here on the 7th rank. So, what does my opponent do? They try to get some attack going on me. I capture, which is the best move, capturing towards the center. And then they play knight to e2 to protect this pawn. So king to h2 would have been better. Knight to e2 is the 3rd best move. And now bishop to e6. And here I wasn't sure how to continue. So it looks like f6 would have been better. Huh. f6. It says that's the best move. So let's take a look at it. If we go there. All right, once again, why do they not just capture? I guess it's that same little trick of, well, if we capture here, I don't know about that. All right, let's take a look at it once again. If they capture, oh yeah, now we can go with check and then pick this bishop off. Oh man. So that's a good little tactic right there. So, after f6, they should play bishop to h6, preparing to trade off, and then queen to b6. We should just go ahead. Now it's saying we should have just captured there. But I don't know about that. That lets their queen come in. Well, then we could have blocked when our queen was on c7. We could have blocked with our queen. But now we have, let's see, king to h1 being the best move. All right, let's finish this up before this turns into a marathon video, more than it has already. Okay, so bishop to e6 was played. Not the best move. They played rook to a1, trying to exchange off material to lessen the attack of my rooks, I guess. So the best thing here is to capture. So we find that, because now that pulls this rook from the center over here, but it is attacking our passed pawn. But we are able to just play queen to d7, although the computer prefers this move instead, queen to c7, which would, it might be better because now our bishop could drop back if it needed to. and reposition. See, we kind of block our bishop in a little bit. So queen to c7 would have been better. But here we're still defending our passed pawn. And now queen to e1 is best. But they did not play that. So they should have moved back here to help defend everything. But because they did not play that, and if they played that, what should we do? Bishop takes h3. Oh man, that is interesting. Our best option here is to sacrifice our bishop when they capture. Now we should play f6 first instead of capturing right away with the queen. And then, oh, if they go there, now we capture, and bishop to f2 to consolidate, although it likes queen to f2 better. Queen to f2. All right, so let's go back and take a look at queen to f2. Says that's best, but now we have this move. Threatening to pin the queen to the king. So queen to h2. Although it's saying the queen should have just captured here. Now queen to g4 check, queen to g2, and we just pick off the bishop. The queen can capture with check, but we're able to just move over. Oh man. They could play rook to f1, but it says queen to f5 is even better. But you know, if they played this move, trying to capture here and check our king, we have bishop to f4, knight captures, pawn captures. We could even check with our rook and fork the king and queen. But now the best thing is to retreat back, but we're winning now. We could play queen to g3 here and just, you know, pin the queen to the king. All right, in the game, what did we have here? We had bishop to f6 being played. At this point, we played rook to d1 check, which the computer says is a great move, forcing them to capture. And then we capture. And now king to f2 protects the knight. And it looks like a3 is the best move. And so that's what we played. Start pushing that passed pawn. And my opponent just let the time run out at this point. It's even saying that we should just capture here, get rid of this bishop. So the game ended there. How might it have continued? Well, the computer gives bishop captures, king captures, queen moving over here, but we should just push the passed pawn. And now there's not really a way to stop it, I don't think. Queen captures with check here. Now what? The king moves over here to avoid any checks by the queen. And now we have, let's see. Interestingly enough, they don't recommend that we just promote immediately. Looks like queen to d4, queen to D, or well, sorry, it's their turn first. So they recommend queen to D4, attacking our queen, but now queen to B1 or C2. We could just go ahead and promote. So I don't know. I'd probably just go ahead and do that. Promote. And then the best move is just to give up your queen here. But, we would just be winning with an extra queen. So now, what, E5. But in the game, what did it, or in the computer's version, it says queen to A5 over here. But then we would go ahead and promote anyway, and they would have to capture. And then we'd capture. But anyway, we would be winning at this point. So the opponent just let the time run out, figuring that there wasn't a way to stop that passed pawn. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for those that haven't already. Feel free to leave comments, suggestions, or any requests if there's something you'd like to see in the future. So once again, thanks for watching and have a super chess day.